And you can hear us?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Yay! We're together.
Huzzah! What's ringing? That's probably my phone.
So apparently we just recorded an entire introduction with all kinds of fun discussion and laughs and then realized we hadn't switched
our mic on.
Awesome.
We're really brilliant that way. Where that's probably
you're seasoned pros at this. This should not be happening, this many years into the pod.
Seasoned pros at the technical difficulties. I think we've got those down pat every single.
You got to be good at
episode.
something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
right. Go big or go home, Steve.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, you're already home, and so am I. So.
Right. Exactly.
Lisa
I'm
has
home.
to go home now.
You're home. Lisa, go home. I'm just kidding.
So today on the podcast, we have a very special guest joining us. And this is somebody who I have had the pleasure of getting to know. I'm not going to say it quite well, but we've spent a bit of time together. I really enjoy chatting with him. And so it's really cool. You've also met him sort of over online platforms, etc. He did some judging for us for our ill-fated, I said ill-fated because I failed it, technical bake. Last year, the awful moon cake,
because we couldn't have had something easier on the technical. Not that the technicals are ever easy, but holy, the 1,000-layer moon cake will forever be etched in my mind.
And I can't believe that my friend judged mine as the worst. Anyway, with no further ado, here is your friend and mine, Steven Levitt.
Woo-hoo,
welcome, Steve.
Hello.
So good to have you on the show. It is a real pleasure. And thank you for your time for doing this. And we so look forward to our conversation today with you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. That's fabulous. The fact that anyone would care anything that I have to say about any topic is amazing to me. So thank you.
Well, I guess
thank you for inflating my ego.
See how much we want to hear after you talk for a little while. Thanks for joining us so late, too. I know that it's already like 3 hours later for you than it is here. And we really appreciate you finding the time in your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. For you guys, for sure.
Aw, you're so kind.
So awesome.
We have a list of questions. We're kind of loosely theming today on chocolate. You can probably guess why, because Steve is has become quite enamored with chocolate. Is that still continuing for you, Steve?
Oh, yes. Yes, it's still a problem for me.
Chocolate addiction, not the eating, but the making of.
Both. A little bit of both.
Oh, that's the best. That is the best. Well, you have to test your creations, right? Quality control, I call it. So
I also got to test his creations.
I know you were lucky.
Sent me some chocolates for Christmas, and I really wanted to make them last a lot longer than they did. They were so good.
So, how does one become a
lucky recipient?
A lucky recipient of Steven's.
I think all you have to do is ask.
I believe that's all it takes. You just have to ask.
I think I may have sent you a DM on that.
Oh, yeah? So he's better late than never. So get on it there, Steve.
Yeah, that's all right.
Next time I do a batch.
Steve. That's all right. I'm not that hurt.
I think I did specify that Lisa share with you, but maybe she didn't get the memo.
I was supposed to take a ferry for an hour and a half just to give her a chocolate that I could enjoy myself. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a bad friend. What can I say?
All good.
All right. So we always start off by saying, so what are you baking today?
Today I baked chocolate chip cookies.
Oh.
Yes, today I actually baked chocolate, which is how it all started for me way back when. But today was specifically salted sourdough brown butter chocolate chunk cookies.
Okay, so not just like your average chocolate chip cookie. We knew it wasn't going to be like, the standard.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, Steve's baking chocolate chip cookies, but that's like gourmet chocolate chip cookies.
Well, I had sourdough starter, so what are you going to do? And at that point, you're putting liquid into it. You got to remove liquid, so you got to take the water out of the butter. So now you got brown butter. It's not my fault. It's science.
I mean, isn't brown butter like the most amazing thing ever?
It's the best and worst, because the problem with brown butter is you make it and it smells. I remember the first time, and not just the first time, but a few times, because I thought maybe it's changed. You know, the first time I make it, I'm like, the smell of this is
Mhm.
unbelievable.
Mhm.
And once it cools down and you're smelling it, and then, oh, I got to try this. And you take a taste and you realize, no, that's just butter. You can't just eat it off a spoon. It smells like you should be able to eat it off a spoon, and it's
Uh,
butter. You can't do that. But man, when you bake with it, everything changes.
yeah,
Magic
it
happens.
is magic. It
It is.
Yeah.
really is. It's like it's just the magic ingredient in so many things. So yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
pretty
it's a
yeah.
amazing.
good way to make butter, which is ridiculously expensive now, make it that much more expensive by removing 25% of the weight to make brown butter. Excellent. I figured out a way to make a $10 pound of butter. This is fabulous.
What a great idea. Wow.
Right? Like,
Follow
yeah,
me for more money
money saving
saving
tips.
tips. Well, that's funny that you say how that was kind of how it all started for you, because our very next question was, so tell us how and why you started baking.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a long story, so I apologize ahead of time, but it
Settle in.
really
You know what? We have time.
so
Time and
it
tea.
it began with it actually began with a weight loss. That's how I started baking, which I know is not usually how baking begins, but in 2012, right at Christmas time, New Year's, I weighed in, as my forearm says, at 265 pounds. And in January, I decided to change things, and I went and changed my lifestyle, the way I ate, started going to the gym. And 1 year later, New Year's of 2013, I was 155 pounds. And
Great work.
I actually found abs, which since I found baking have hidden again, but
They're still there.
they're still
They're
there.
still
They're
there.
just
It's just
protected. They're protected
they're
now, which is
protected.
good. They were way exposed. That wasn't cool. Um, but after keeping the weight off for about a year or so, I thought, okay, my two favorite things in the world, if you could wave a magic wand and all of my nutrients and proper caloric intake were done, I would eat only hot dogs and chocolate chip cookies. That would be it. I'd be a happy guy. I have the palate of a 7-year-old, and that's all I need. And so I thought, okay, but I'm not going to buy store-bought chocolate chip cookies. If I'm going to take it in, it's going to have to be good. So now I've got to figure out how to make a good chocolate chip cookie. So I went online, started looking at recipes, and it took about a year. And a year later, between all these online recipes and me playing around and having no clue what I was doing, I made, for me, what was the best chocolate chip cookie. But along the way, my daughters had birthdays, and okay, you know what? Instead of making a box cake, cookies, cake, it's pretty much the same. So I made the cake, and whoa, I know what I'm doing. I can bake, and this is kind of fun. Um, and now we're getting into around 2017, and I had started watching the British Bake Off, and I was at work, and the woman who works in the office beside me, she comes running in to my office, and she says, you know that British baking show that we watched because we talked about it at work? I said, yeah. She says, it's coming to Canada. And you know that guy that you like to watch on that shit show? He's going to be on it. And I said, oh, Dan Levy. So,
The shit show.
Shit show. I was like, wait, can we say shit
I
on
so
know.
the
It was
podcast?
like, oh, are we going to get in trouble?
The shit as an
SCH, yes,
SCHITT.
Schitt's
Yeah,
Creek.
Shit's
Um,
Creek. Exactly.
and it happened to, and I remember this because of what I was wearing. It was St. Patrick's Day 2017. So I was wearing all green at work, and I went online and I started filling out the application form. Like I said, okay,
Just
I'm
right,
I'm, I'm
right
gonna
then
I'm
and
gonna try
there.
to get on the show because I want my wife to meet him, because all she ever said was, I know if we meet each other, we will become best friends. So I thought, I'm going to get on the show because I know how to bake now. And I'm going to introduce my wife to Dan Levy. And this is how this is all going to go down. And I start filling out the application, not realizing like there's 70 questions. I figure, 10 questions, I'm out. Next thing I know, I'm walking around the office with a selfie stick in my phone, making a video. Like I did the whole thing right there. Like in a half an hour, it was done. Whatever pictures I could find, I put them. And I got a phone call. Like I got a phone interview out of that. And when they were giving me delightful, whoever was talking on the other phone, absolutely delightful. And he asked me, do you make your own puff pastry? And my answer was, and it was an honest answer, which was the wrong answer. And I said, years ago, I used to work in a restaurant, a short order cook. And, the chefs there, they talked about puff pastry, and they said, you should never make your own puff pastry. Buying it frozen is as good as you could ever make. This is what I told a guy to a show that I'm trying to get on about baking. Genius. So his next question is, what about patishu? Do you make that? And at that point, he might as well have been speaking Swahili. I have no idea what he just said. And so instead, I just said, I do, but it needs a lot of work, because I didn't know what he was talking about. And I could hear it the other end, almost like there's a red Sharpie going through all of my answers. And we hung up, and I heard nothing from them after that. And I realized, okay, I can make chocolate chip cookies, and I can make a chocolate cake. I can make a below average vanilla cake. I don't know how to bake. This is ridiculous.
Aw.
And the next season comes around, and I realize I have done nothing to learn. And when season 3 came along, I thought, you know what? I think I really want to get on this show. And in the fall of that year, I said, okay, I still don't know much about baking. I asked my sister, who knew. She knew the stuff to eat. She didn't know necessarily how to bake all the stuff. And I said, what do I need to know? So she would say puff pastry. Okay, Monday, I'm going to learn how to make puff pastry, and I'm going to practice through the week. And by Sunday, day 7, I'm making a dessert featuring puff pastry. Done. Okay, following Monday, patishu. I'm going to 6 days of learning patishu. Day 7, I'm going to make some. And I did that every week for about 3 months. And I was this close. Like, I was in the final group that went to the CBC in season 3.
Oh.
And that just hooked me. I fell in love. At that point, it was like, if I get on the show, great, but I love baking. And and it all began because I had dropped 110 pounds and wanted to make a good chocolate chip cookie. And then Dan Levy shows up on the Great Canadian Baking Show. And that's what got me into baking.
The
Oh.
craziness is your dedication.
Mhm.
Like, your dedication. I mean, number one, congratulations on losing that weight, because that
you.
is not an easy thing to do, and you should be very proud of yourself just for having the determination to decide to do something and then to do it, and then to do it for a year to perfect your chocolate chip cookie is like, I mean, I have not heard of that.
That's very admirable.
It
And
is.
that's like sheer persistence and determination.
And then
And maybe a bit of delusion at some point.
Yeah.
But it paid off.
It did.
I mean, that's
Persistence pays off.
yeah. And then the recognition of, okay, I'm not good enough. And so what do I need to do to get good enough? And you obviously did it, because I mean, it was another 2 more seasons. So did you apply every single season?
Yes. So I applied. I mean, I was on season 5, and I applied 4 out of those 5 seasons. Only season 2, where I knew it would make no sense to apply. But yeah, and I just kept practicing and working at it. And I just figured I was that close in season 3. So season 4, I'm a shoo-in. Of course, season 4 was 2020. And there's no applications. And are they even going to have one? And oh no, this is. And then so when I made the application, I don't know how they're doing it at this point. And I got a phone call, and I think I had like a Zoom video, but I didn't have an audition. I didn't have a bake along. Of course, I didn't even know bake-alongs were a thing, because that was the first year they did them. And I was like, wow, I'm bummed. Like, I was that close last year. What happened? And I knew, because I had asked them when I got my unfortunately email. And I contacted the producer, and I said, look, I get it. I get you are casting a show. I understand that. And you've got to represent Canada from east to west. And you have to represent Canada with all the people who are in the country. So I totally get that. I said, but I want to be a better baker. And at the auditions that I was at in season 3, there was a pastry chef who was tasting whatever you brought. And I said, if you have any information, if there is any feedback, that's what I want to know, is like, how was my baking? And I couldn't believe that I got a response probably 10 minutes after I sent the email. And the response was, actually, the pastry chef had nothing but praise for you. And we don't know why or how the CBC chooses, but keep on applying. And so I knew it was just a matter of, they had me, cast for season 3. I always say when season 3 came out, I looked at the picture of who was baking and I was like, Liam kind of looks like me a little bit. Maybe Liam is me this year. I don't know. So I
Yeah.
Mhm.
couldn't figure out. And I know in season 4, I was like, it's Larry. He's the dad. So that's why in season 5, I said to them straight up, I said, I want to be your Larry. They said, everyone wants to be Larry. Everyone loves Larry. I said, no, no, no. I want to be the dad for season 5. If you need a dad, I'm the guy.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
fabulous. And obviously that was effective because you were seasons 5 Larry.
I think I was.
You
But
are the
no,
Maybe
season 5 Steve.
I was season
Steve.
5 Steve. Yes, I had to lose the N. I couldn't be Steven because we had Steven.
Yeah.
One had to be
Yeah,
Yep.
Steve,
that's
one
right.
had to be Steven. So,
Do people call you Steven usually?
you know what? Until it was my wife who really wanted it to be Steven, which means I
Oh,
wanted it to
really?
be Steven. I
Yeah.
was Steve growing up as a kid. It was always Steve, Steve, Steve. And actually, when they asked me, they said, "Can you go by? We have a Steven. Can you go by Steve?" And I said, "I can go by Steve. Whatever. You want me on the show? You can call me Peter. I don't care." And
Right?
I said, most people actually, my close friends call me Levitt. My mother even calls me Levitt
Right,
from
that's
time to
true, yeah.
time. So put that on the apron. And I was actually kind of hoping they were going to do that.
That
They
that would be
didn't.
cool actually if they did.
Yeah.
Oh, I always call you Steve. I hope that's okay.
Yeah. Anyone who knows me from the show calls me Steve.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me from when I was younger calls me Steve. People who've known me forever call me Levitt.
Yeah.
And then half the people call me Steven. So it used to be Steven meant I was in trouble. And
Yeah,
then Steven
exactly.
became sort of a term of endearment. So I
Yeah.
answered everything.
Yeah. Just
That's
don't call me
awesome.
late for dinner.
Well, usually I'm the one making it, so
All right, where are we at?
All right. So with so obviously you went through a huge transition. You really dedicated yourself to learn absolutely everything you needed to know. What was probably the most difficult thing that you had to perfect along the way, or really found challenging?
until recently, actually, working with gelatin, anything, and still I
Oh,
say the word gelatin,
ah,
and it gives me sort of I can feel the little hairs stand up on my neck, and I got to be honest,
that's right.
when I was on the show, I fell in love, and I'm going to use that term loosely, but I fell in love with sheet gelatin, leaf gelatin.
Uh-huh.
It was only ever the powdered stuff, and
Yeah.
because I would want to make mousse. I love mousse, love eating mousse, and it didn't. It when my mousse would either go, it would just be so loose, or it would be like, wow, rubber, cool, excellent mousse. So I, to this day, do not use gelatin in my mousse at all. I actually spent same thing over a year developing recipes, and because they're different for chocolate versus a fruit-based mousse, and neither one of the mousse recipes that I make use gelatin at all. As a matter of fact, they're almost completely set when I finish making them, and I
Wow.
love
That's
them. Yeah,
amazing.
but
So
I
what's the secret ingredient if not gelatin?
pardon me.
What's your secret ingredient
No,
to get that
no secret
consistency?
ingredients. It's the chocolate one is sort of a ganache based. It's
Mhm.
egg yolks. It's just egg yolks, egg yolks. I do
Okay.
have two. I have one that I use for entremets, which is more firm. That's it's an egg yolk ganache based one. And then I have one that is much better eating out of like a martini glass if you're going to eat it, which is
Oh,
using the egg yolks,
wow.
but then using egg whites in a meringue to fold that, and that makes it super
Mhm.
super light and super delicious. And
Oh,
when it comes to the fruit ones, I found a really good um, white chocolate mousse recipe that uses cream cheese. That's more the stabilization part of it. And one
Oh,
day I
okay.
said, well, what if I take out, because there's cream used to make the ganache, the cream and the white chocolate, and then there's cream that you whip with the cream cheese. And I thought, what if I take out the cream that I use to make the ganache and substitute that for a fruit puree? Would that work? And once I did that and adjusted some other things, it worked, and it's been phenomenal. And so now I can use that for entremets. I can use that for anything, and it's amazing. And now I'll make mousse anytime. But when it comes to the gelatin, I will only use leaf because I find that it's exactly, you don't have to measure. You don't have to worry about how much water am I putting in to make the gelatin mass.
Yeah.
Just throw the leaf in and let it absorb its water, do its thing. And for that, so I use it for mirror glaze, for making gelée. Gelée is another thing because I don't know. I don't remember how far they pushed it on the finale when we had to make our pies that had the gelée in the middle, and mine was, it went beyond Jello. It was firm. It was. I don't remember if they played that up or not, but it was not cool. And now my gelées are okay, but yeah, gelatin and me, that's been my nemesis. So you have
Yeah.
a choice. You run away from it, or you just keep on working at it until you figure out where it fits and how to make it work. And that's what I've done.
Yeah. And it sounds like you found a really great solution to, mitigate the usage of gelatin in your favorite mousses that you do,
Yeah.
which is amazing, and which is great. So now you just use gelatin when you really have to for some of those other elements that there is no other alternative for. So I think that's a really cool thing about what baking does as well, and just the whole experimental process, which is very, very satisfying when you actually can find that solution to a problem that you have. And I just love it. There's just so many different roads to get to where you need to go. So
you must have
that's
so many
awesome.
notebooks full of all these notes about what you
I
tried.
should, but I don't. I'm terrible with that. Like
How
I'm
do you know what
telling
you didn't?
I
How do you know what you did or didn't do last time?
well, I have like a recipe. I have binders. I have a shelf that has
Okay.
binders, and my binders, like there's a binder that says cakes, a binder that says cookies, and I make notes on now all these things that are printed out. They're also files in my computer, but I never go into the computer to change them. So it's just handwritten notes.
There's all the
I'm at that
scribbles
age
all
where I
over.
love technology and I love all that, but I don't always, I was a child of it was, I was 11 years old when Canada brought the metric system in. So I was the guy who had to go to my parents and my grandparents, and when it was Fahrenheit or Celsius, I would have to tell them what it was in Fahrenheit and back and forth. So I can do both. Same thing. I was much older when computers became a thing. I love computers. I love playing with them, but I like things printed out and I like to touch them and write on them. And my chocolate cake recipe it's just covered. It's brown, but there's so much cocoa powder over the years, and there's notes written down. And if I get hit on the head, no one will ever be able to make it because I know what I've done to change it, and not everything's even written on there anymore. And one day I should probably do it. And no, the other bakers on my season, they're good at notes and they write. I look over here on my printer. Here's a Post-it note. This Post-it note, it's still sitting on my printer. When I was on the show 3 years ago, it says at the top, to bring chai, mango puree, butterflies. This was things I needed to bring when I was on the show. It's still attached to my printer.
It's there so that you can remember it. Oh my gosh, but Steve, that's probably why we get along so well. Like I have a Post-it note on my refrigerator that says mango ? Mascarpone ? And I have no idea what it was from. It's still there in case it becomes important.
Well, there you go.
Maybe I'll remember someday.
But what a great little, like, almost reminder that you had such an incredible experience being on the Great Canadian Baking Show, right? That you can look at on your printer every time, you're in your office and go, yes, the note of the stuff that I was supposed to bring. What a great memory that is.
And the nice part is the things on that note are all the things I did on the very first signature. And since that was sort of, it was that was the highlight. And then I sort of muddled down from there. I won star. I always like to say I muddled down and then I know other people say, yeah, but you made it to the finale. I said, yeah, but in my head, it was just sort of, I hit the Everest and then I went downwards from there. But I know.
You kind of did because you won the first technical.
Yes.
I won. I won 4 of the 5 first technicals, but of course
we didn't get that far today. But
but I like to always say my claim to fame is after that I finished wherever I finished in the next technical, and then if we go right through to the holiday special, I came in dead last on the next 3.
We started off strong.
It's first or last for me for everything. I suppose.
Go big or go home, like we started off the episode with, right?
Exactly.
It became comical. It's I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just stopped listening to instructions.
So That's awesome. So you made it onto the show. Then that meant that you had to be away for about 6, 7 weeks to actually film.
Yep.
So, and obviously there's a lot of secrecy around that. You can't, you tell your immediate family, probably, your employer, but
Need to
everybody
know.
else,
The people on a
yeah,
need to know
exactly.
basis.
But
Yeah.
everybody else, what did you tell them you were doing for 6, 7 weeks while you were away?
Then that was tough because I own my own business. It's COVID. Like every business, we're struggling. My particular business deals with events. So all of our customers have been shut down. So while the
Mhm.
government didn't look at us that we were shut down, all of our customers are shut down. My poor employees are struggling to make ends meet, which means I'm struggling to make ends meet. And now I finally get on the show I've always wanted to get on, and I have to disappear in the middle of this pandemic. And what am I can't tell my staff how frivolous is that? In the middle of this, the boss is going to take off for 6 weeks. So I couldn't even tell my staff. I told my business partner, and I told my immediate family, like immediate, like my wife, my kids, my mother, sister, and that was it. Like nobody else knew, because they tell you can tell people who absolutely need to know. And I thought, I think I might have gone overboard on that. But then it became, so what am I going to tell them? Because you can't travel, you can't disappear.
Mhm.
And people know that if I go somewhere, I'm not going without my wife. I got to disappear without my wife. And the only thing that made any sense, and it really didn't, was, so my dad lives just outside of Atlanta. He's been in the States since the late 70s. And he was, I guess, 16, 17 years earlier, he'd been diagnosed with cancer, and he was given 30 to 60 days to live. And here he was 16, 17 years later, still going like the Energizer Bunny, not as good as he had been in the middle. And I called up my dad. I said, look, you and I have a similar sensibility. We have a sense of humor. I said, I need to disappear. So here's what I plan on telling people. I just need to know you're cool with this. He said, what's that? I said, I'm going to tell people you're not doing well, and I'm going down to help you and your wife, and I'm going to be there to help make meals. Just, you're not doing great. And he said, so I'm dying. I said, yes, you're dying. And that's what I'm telling people. You're dying. But I said, the only thing I need you to do, I said, you need to make me one promise. He said, what's the promise? I said, you cannot die while I'm on the show, because that will ruin everything. And so he said, well, my plan is not to die while you're on the show. So that was the grand story that I told. Now, my father had taken off when I was a kid. And so my mother's family does not have a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings towards him. So they were not thrilled that I have now taken off in the middle of a pandemic to help out this guy. They were confused as to why I did it, but they were pretty cool, although they did badger my wife from time to time. And the interesting thing was, I would FaceTime my dad almost every day. We probably talked more in those 6 weeks than we ever had. And to his word, he did not die while I was filming the show. We finished filming on a Saturday. Sunday was the day we went home. The following Friday or Saturday, I got a call from his wife. You have to come down. He had a procedure. He's not going to make it.
Oh.
And so we drove down, which was really wild to drive across the border that's closed. They let us through. On the way down, he passed away. So
Oh,
we got down there,
so sorry.
and then it happens. Of all the things he did and was in his life, he finally kept a promise. And the promise he kept was he wouldn't die while I was on the show. The part that really sucked was when I came home, because I was gone now. So now I'm gone for 6 weeks. I'm home for a week. I'm gone for another week while I go down and we bury him. And then I come back home. Everyone, everyone, from their heart, they would look at me and they would say, I'm so sorry for what happened to your dad. Put their hand on my shoulder. At least you got to spend those 6 weeks with him. So I kind of felt a little bad when people would say that to me. But
But
the truth is
well,
I did. I
yeah,
spent
but
time with him. They just didn't know it wasn't in person, that's all. So,
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because you talked to him
You
almost
did
every
have a
day
yeah,
lot of
on
time.
FaceTime,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you really were kind of there as there as you could have been under COVID circumstances as
Yes,
well.
but when
But
when we shared that when the 10 of us on the show were sharing what we told people, and I'm realizing I didn't have to go to that extreme. Everyone was mortified when I told my story. They're like, "You what?" I said, "Wow,
well,
he got it. He was cool with it."
yeah, and nobody's going to question you on that, right? Everybody would be completely understanding, and they wouldn't
Absolutely.
question you. They wouldn't go, "Really? That's what you're doing?" Especially if they knew that you'd applied for the show as well. Like, did you have anybody who actually did question you, like a friend, and said,
Ooh,
and it, you
good
know what I mean?
question.
Like, did anybody
I
No.
go,
think they would just
No,
be
because
like,
"No,
"No,
that's
there's
the
no."
kind of story you tell where no one's questioning that story, and
That's
that's the
true.
yeah,
thing. Had no one known that I had ever wanted to get on the show, I could have told almost any story, but,
yeah,
Yeah,
this was one of those things where, people had known since 2017 that I had been trying and trying to get on this show, and, of
yeah,
course,
yeah,
you tell everyone, I applied again," and then you tell
yeah.
everyone, I got an audition. I got the and it's after the audition and they say, "Okay, now don't tell anyone." I said, "Couldn't you have said that before I got the like tell me that before the audition so I don't tell
mhm.
people I got I can just say no, it didn't work out again this year. Then I can do the audition and then but everyone knew I
It's so
got the
hard to
audition."
do that, though.
Yeah,
You're so excited about it and so
Yeah.
hopeful, and I mean, I know all about that.
Yeah.
You just keep trying year after year, and you're like, everyone's like, I would have people popping their heads into my office, like swinging around the door from like, so did you hear anything yet? And I'm like, I'm
yeah,
not allowed to tell you, even if I did. And then I was like, why did I tell so many people that?
yeah.
But it's
I,
like it becomes your life, right?
yeah,
It becomes something that's just so important and all encompassing. So
yeah. I think next time I'm just not going to say anything.
No,
to
you're
me,
gonna
are you going to
say
say
Well, maybe
something?
to you. Yeah. Maybe to
no,
you.
you'll
That's
tell
different. I
people.
guess.
You will.
And
Yeah.
You will.
yeah, who am I kidding, right?
It's
Like, especially we're
exciting.
doing this podcast, so we're going to be talking about it,
It's
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
exciting for me still when I see people who are speaking to you guys when you're applying. I
Yeah.
mean, this year I went to the open casting auditions in Montreal. I would just to
Yeah.
meet people and see them and
Yeah.
like I could see in their eyes what I used to feel, what I still feel.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think both of you know I have pretended to apply every year since I left the show.
Yes.
I've created characters to apply year after year on the show, which
Hey, do all those characters like the baking scraps, by the way?
they all love baking scraps, yes.
Oh, excellent.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
All right.
You have no
Good.
idea how close you were to getting my aunt to come on today instead of me.
Ah, that would have been awesome. We would have loved to have met your aunt.
Another
It would
time.
have been lovely to have on the show today.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. So,
Okay, we will invite her next time.
Please.
absolutely.
I promise.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you finally you fulfilled this dream that you've had for so many years. You finally get to walk into that tent. What was that feeling like?
I remember that like clear as day. We as we approached the tent, we came around a corner and I'm getting all goosebumpy now thinking of it.
That's
I
so
could
cool.
see
Yeah.
the tent. And as I saw the tent, I'm not even kidding. I can hear it now. The music starts playing in my ears. I can hear the music. I can hear it now. It was wild. Like just walking up to it, and I'm like, it's really here. It really looks like it looks. And I could hear that Tom Howe music playing. And I walked up to that tent, 27 times? I baked 27 times in that tent. Every single time I walked up to that tent, I heard the music. It was and then when I walked in, the first time you walk in, and every now and then I'll watch back, and you can like it was not acting. This was amazement and wonder. I walked and I'm trying to take it all in. There is so much there.
Mhm.
There's so much detail. There's so much everything. You cannot. It looks different when you're in it, and it feels like I hate to say it feels like home, but it does. But what a feeling. Like it
Mhm.
felt like just a warm blanket on a cold day. It felt so good. And you see, I had never noticed. I looked up and I saw the lights are big galvanized steel wash bins hold around the lights. Like I'd never noticed that before watching the show. But when I looked right at the back, they've got all these things on the back wall. They've got that sink, and then they've got shelves filled with all kinds of baking implements. And it's not there now, but it was the year I was on the right-hand side, there was a pot. It was a reddish pot, like a stock pot. And it had this weird, like an insignia on it, probably from the 60s or the 70s. It was my grandmother's pot. It was the weirdest thing. My grandmother had the same color, the same logo or insignia, whatever it was. And every time I walked in, I was like, my grandmother, like I walked in there. I don't know how many people saw me holding this. It was a pastry cutter that I would hold for judging. I was always holding it. It sat on my station for every bake. That was my grandmother's pastry cutter. So that was with me for every bake. It was horrible. You couldn't use it. You'd never get anything done, but it was hers. And I wanted to bring her into the tent with me. And that was sort of my good luck charm. But to walk in
And
that
that red
first
pot.
time and see that pot there, that was crazy. Like she was there.
Yeah. She was there.
I love it.
And that is such a sweet story. And you said it was like being home.
Yeah.
And one of the things, especially season 5, all of the bakers in season 5 seemed to have this like just incredible connection with each other. And it was almost like it was like this real family. And you see it on many seasons as well. But especially in season 5, you really saw those connections.
And actually the season 5 baking family, I think, has also made those connections with the viewers, like the people that I don't know what, there's something about season 5 that really holds it. Like we were just reviewing, like while we were baking this afternoon, we were like, oh, let's watch season 5. And so we started, and I'm like, we're like watching all of our family, all of our friends on TV.
Yeah.
Like it was just such a nice, it did even felt like coming home to us. We didn't get to walk into the tent, but we watched you guys walk into the tent, and we were just like, oh, look, oh, there's Alita, oh, there's Steve, oh, there's, and it was, such a good feeling. There was such a feeling of camaraderie there.
And you were all just so generous.
What's that?
It was, I mean, we have nothing to compare it to because we are us, and we haven't been on any other seasons, but we asked the guy who would, I hesitate to say do our makeup because, he touched up our hair and made sure we didn't shine first thing in the morning. And we asked him maybe a couple, 3 days into it, we said, is everyone get this close? And he said, everyone gets close. He says, and when you get close to the end, he goes, it's going to get really weird. He said, but I'm going to tell you, he had done a few seasons. He said, I've seen groups get as close as you guys. He says, I've never seen them walk in on day one the way you guys did, like you guys had known each other all your lives. So it definitely, there was something there. I mean, I chalk that up to the people who do the casting, and I didn't get on in season 3, and it was a casting decision. It wasn't a baking decision. Looking back, I'm glad they didn't, because I got better over the 2 years of baking anyway. But they do such a good job of casting, because I realize it's not even Canada East to West and the people inside. It's then making sure that the right personalities are there that are going to mesh with each other. And I think, look, who's kidding who? Season 5 was the best season. Let's not mince words here. It's not even close. And they hit one out of the park that year, and everything is, it's nice, but it's not season 5 after that or before that.
No.
Story other seasons, but the truth.
It was magic.
And I think what I really appreciate about all of you season 5 bakers is that you're all so incredibly generous with your time and energy, and especially with your just interaction with your fans, and the people who follow you on social media sites. You're just really lovely, very kind, supportive. It's such a wonderful thing to have that, and especially for the two of us who haven't made it into the tent and so want to be there one day. We look up to you guys.
Yeah, we do.
And it's just it's a really special connection that you at least make it seem like we have, which is lovely.
Well, thank you. That's very, very sweet of you. I mean, it's funny when you say the word fans. It's ridiculous. It's still ridiculous to me.
Over here.
It's still ridiculous to me when people recognize me. I'm telling you, it's 3 years, and when people recognize me, I still don't know why until they say,
Know
and
what
then I
to
write,
say.
right, I was on TV. It never dawns on me why someone would recognize me ever.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's an interesting thing. Yeah.
But yet I fanboy over people from the other seasons. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the first time I met people from any of the seasons from 1 to 4, it was like, oh my God. When I met Andre for the first time, I'm like, Andre, I have a picture of your finale showstopper. It's the only thing I've ever obsessed over, but I remember watching season 2. And again, thinking that maybe I should have been on season 1. And I remember watching season 2 going, are you kidding? I couldn't even hold his spatula. Like that's, and I watched what he made and I was like, I don't know a lot, but that's pretty impressive. And of course, the more I learned over the years, the more I thought, how did he do that? And I showed him my
Andre's
phone. I said, look, there's a
he's in a
picture of
category all
everything.
his own.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
an alien. I mean, Andre's a complete alien.
Incredible. So I must ask, because one of the reasons you said that you wanted to be on the show was so your wife could meet Dan Levy.
Oh yeah.
Now on season 5, we all know Dan was no longer one of the hosts.
She literally just said, I was kind of sad that Dan Levy wasn't on the show anymore at that time.
He was so good. I really liked him. I mean, who doesn't, right? But I mean, Alan and Anne are lovely people as well. But is your wife now friends with Alan and Anne?
My wife is, well, she's met them a couple of times. My daughter, my youngest daughter, Marley, completely obsessed, especially with Anne. My daughter is studying in school I want to get this right. Makeup in media and creative arts. So she sees Anne and it's like, she wants to do Anne's makeup. She wants to do her hair. She loves, and she got to meet them a couple of times. She loves them. My wife, I mean, how do you know, if you've ever met Anne and Alan, they're two of not only the loveliest people, they are super, super funny. It makes me crazy how, I mean, I love the show, but how conservative our show is versus the British one. The British one is so cheeky. It's
very cheeky.
The stuff that people don't get to see on the Canadian one, like sometimes people say to me,
Alan,
they're okay, but they're not that funny. I said, no, they're very funny. You don't get to see all the really good stuff. They're super, and you know who's super funny? Bruno is super funny. He's got a sense of humor.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that. Yeah.
I mean, both.
Yeah.
All 4 of them, Kyla and Bruno, are. I mean, you're probably going to ask me, so I won't jump ahead. I'm assuming you will. I mean, the most lovely people. But yeah, Alan and Anne, just wonderful people and so sweet. I mean, I'm so lucky that they were there. I mean, I don't know what the future will hold and who might show up in the future, or those two might carry it on forever and ever. But
they're doing a great job.
They seem like such a great ensemble, right?
Yeah,
they
and
complement each other. So.
Yeah, they work off each other and they work off the bakers too. I mean, it's so natural, and it's what a pleasure to be there with them, and to feed them too.
That's fabulous.
So right now, the season 8 bakers are starting their journey. So what would be the best piece of advice that you could give them for this experience?
It's what my wife said to me when I went to the tent. As a matter of fact, this is my Grateful Baker hoodie. I think it's written on the back. Does it say something on the back?
Yes, it says, "Find the joy."
Is that your piece of advice?
That
is so wise.
I left home, and my wife saw me some days. I won't even say on the verge of tears, actually crying, practicing for the show, stressing out. You know, let's face it, those icebox cookies. Everyone cried making those icebox cookies.
I believe it.
But when it worked, then I actually really cried because I couldn't believe I cut it open. There was a bear's face staring back at me. And she said before I left, she said, remember, you love to bake. You're going there to do something you love. Find the joy. When it gets tough, just find the joy in the moment. There's going to be joy there. And that's what I remembered when I went in there. And, you know, for me, there was pressure. Don't get me wrong. There is pressure in that tent, but the pressure was different for me, I think, than for some people. And when I'm in a room, and I don't know if it ever happened, Lisa, when you were there with me and Vincent, and people ask the question about the pressure, and it's now to the point where I can't even open my mouth, and Vincent just puts his hand up. He says, "Don't listen to him. He was
Yeah, he did that.
dancing. He was singing. He doesn't. He doesn't even. He don't even think he knows he was in the tent. He was just having a good time." But I was feeling pressure, but that's just how I deal with it. For me, that's I would walk in there, and I said it a million times. Like, I get to bake today. This is what I don't have to go to work. I'm not dealing with
Yeah.
anything. I get to bake. Not I have to make this. I get to bake today. And it was all about the joy of baking and having fun and playing with Alan and Ann and playing with the other bakers. And that's the advice I tell anyone where you're going in. You get to do this. This is something no one just wakes up on a whim except for Steve and Nan and goes into the tent. You have this desire and the dream to go and get in there. And when you get in there, just enjoy it. Like, just really,
Yeah.
and the worst thing that can possibly happen is they say you got to go home. And you know what? That is the worst thing, because you don't want to leave your friends. That's what it comes
Yeah.
down to. You don't realize that
Mhm.
until you're there. You just
Yeah.
don't want to leave your friends. Screw the baking. You've gotten this family before you walk in the first day. There's this, because in my world, there are no other people I can talk with about baking ad nauseum. People roll their eyes in my world, so I don't even say anything. But you
Yeah.
get there, and people understand how expensive butter is, or where am I going to put all my flour, or Amanda and I both, we had a car that sat on the driveway in the winter, and that's where you put the butter when it was on sale, because it could stay frozen, and when you didn't have freezer space, that type of thing. It was so just, it's joy. It's all about joy. It is the happiest. I don't care what they say at Disney. The happiest place on earth is that tent. I would go back tomorrow
Oh,
again and again and again. I would continue to go back. When they called me for the holiday special, I couldn't believe they were calling. Michael, the producer, he called me up, and I was at work. I said, "What are you calling me?" And he said, "Remember when you said you'd come back in a heartbeat?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, you've heard of this little holiday special." I started swearing at him because I thought, there's no way they want me to come back for this. And I said, "Of course I'm coming back. I mean, that's not even a
Yeah.
question. I wouldn't have left in the first place with the last day there." I said, "Just roll me up with the tent. And when you open it up for season 6, there I am,
I'll be
ready to go."
that's
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it was
love it.
just
Okay,
greatest
Lisa, we
place.
really need to get into that tent.
yes, we do. We do. We'll keep working on it. I
Please
promise.
never stop.
Mhm.
Never stop.
I won't. We
We won't.
won't.
We won't.
No.
And your
Then I
wife?
will. I mean, I'm already fanboying over the two of you, but I would do that even that much more, because I get to watch you every Sunday night.
Oh,
Ah,
we'd love that. Do you
that's so
remember
sweet.
do you remember what you said to me the first day that we met? When you came to pick me up and I opened the door at my
Uh,
friend's house?
was that when I was afraid to lose my ears?
Yeah, well, that was what you were afraid. But I opened the door and you said, "You're real."
Yes.
You're real.
Well, yes, I mean, all you're just this
As
phenomenal
opposed to
baker that I see on social media, and all of a sudden there you are
And
in
that's
real
what I
life.
was feeling about you, right? That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, we're
How
gonna
cool.
keep going to try to
Yeah.
get in that tent, but we really wanted to do this podcast just because it was time for a different sort of creative outlet. We're not stopping baking or
No.
anything, but we are trying to find the joy in it and share that joy with all these people who do the same thing, who fangirl, fanboy about you, right? And all the people who come, who get that opportunity to be in the tent, or even just, there's so many other people, like people who are
Mhm.
posting on Instagram all the time, these phenomenal bakers. Like, I can't even list any of them. There are so many that you see their stuff and you're just amazed.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to kind of have another method of bringing all those people together.
Well,
And we're really,
that
what's
I'm
that?
sorry to interrupt, but that reminds me of something, a really good piece of advice I can give. Now, I was oblivious when I got on, because I remember us sitting out in a field, because it was COVID, we weren't allowed to be together, so we sat in this giant circle, 6 feet apart, 10 of us in this giant circle,
Oh.
and and we were I can't remember who it's like, "Oh, I knew you would be here, I knew you'd be here, and you'd be here because you stopped posting." And it comes to me like, "Who are you? We don't know who you." And I didn't know there was a community. I didn't know there was a Facebook page. I didn't know there were
Right.
podcasts going on in Australia about this. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I just knew I wanted to get on the show. And
Shout out to the Washing Up podcast.
yeah, love those guys. Love them.
Love those guys.
But then they would start talking about, I knew you'd be on, and then they start talking about what they saw on their Instagram. And I said, okay, so I am not going to look at anyone's Instagram account. I don't know who any of you are, but because let's face it, most people don't post their failures on Instagram, only the perfect and the perfect lighting. I don't need that extra pressure. I already feel like I don't belong with any of you. So that's a little piece of advice. Don't look at Instagram. I mean, it's too late for most people.
That is a very, very good piece of advice. Yeah. And I think, that whole imposter syndrome probably is like really rears its ugly head, especially when you're in the tent and maybe things aren't working out as well. And then you're seeing, or you finish your bake and maybe things haven't gone as well as you were hoping, but you look over to your other baker friends and they've got these amazing sculptures, creations, works of art that should be in museums. Like, how does that feel? And I guess it's like any given Sunday in football, right? Like, I guess, some days it works for you and other days maybe not so much. But
well, imposter syndrome is, I had never heard the expression until I was in the tent. And I remember after our first bake, when we had to do that pound cake, which it's ridiculous because I had never made a pound cake in my life, because I'm practicing all this other stuff. And what's your first task is to make a pound cake? What? My grandmother made pound cakes. Why would I make a pound cake? And how am I going to put lipstick on this pig? Like, this is a pound cake.
It's a pound cake.
Yeah. But I made this pound cake, and I remember looking down. First of all, I remember it was almost like I blacked out. And on your mark it said bake, and then I open my eyes and my cake is done. Like, I don't remember any of that first bake. But I remember looking down thinking, wow, this is better than it's ever turned out. I can't believe how good it turned out. Then I turned my head and Karen was beside me, and I look at hers, and she's got
with
like
those puff pastries.
Like the fried puff pastry. I'm like,
the lotus. Yeah.
And then I can see Vincent, who's in front of her, and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Like, in my world, maybe I'm the best baker I know. In this tent, I'm one of 10 people who knows how to bake, and I'm not so sure that I might not be number 10 right now. Like, it was, but it was talking afterwards, we all felt the exact same thing. It did. So it's not even when you have a fail, when you have something that's a triumph, of course, and you guys know, you only see all the flaws. You don't see how beautiful it is. Because in your head, it should have been this, it should have been this, I could have done this. And then you look and you see everyone else's, and they're like, oh, they're great. And they're like, no, yours is great. Mine should have done this. So all of us had imposter syndrome. And when they said that, I'm like thinking, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's a thing. I guess that's a thing. That makes total sense. It disappears pretty quick. You never really, or at least I never really felt like, I always joke and say that, and it's only half joking that I say they kept me around because I made them laugh. And I'm not so sure that I was one of the top 3 bakers, but I mean, I know they did. I know they're keeping me around.
Good thing you know that.
But in my head, that's not the thing, because I kept looking down going, Cha. And a lot of times it was looking down going, how did this happen? I don't remember. I remember start. I remember some of the parts in the middle, but how did it end up like this in the end? Like, it's crazy.
Crazy.
Muscle memory took over and adrenaline probably, and you just got her done.
I mean, I made sure to always practice for time on all my bakes except for one. There was one bake that I didn't get for time in practice, but it almost killed me. And I said, I'm not doing it. I did it twice. And I said, the third time will be in the tent. It'll be the last time I ever do it. And somehow I will find the 20 minutes that I'm over, like 20 minutes. I'm not talking about 2 minutes. I was over by 20 minutes. It was a 4-hour challenge. The first time I did it took me 7 hours. The second time took me 4 hours, 20. And I said, in the tent, I will figure it out. And I did it in 3 hours, 59 minutes and 58 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
No wonder it almost killed you. I can imagine.
It was that campfire d'Equoise Yeah,
Oh,
that would,
yeah.
and all I kept thinking was, after all of this, we have to make a wedding centerpiece out of meringue, and everyone's going to have these beautiful things out of bridal magazines, and I'm going to have something out of Field and Stream, and I really hope the judges understand what's going on. And I remember when I started making the bacon, and Vincent, he's in front of me by like 2. He's like, "Is someone making bacon in here?" I said, "Yeah, the Jewish guy's making the bacon. Don't worry, I got this thing covered." I said, "Isn't that what we're supposed to do today?"
Oh, that is fantastic. But yeah, the pressure must be incredibly intense. But obviously,
No pun intended.
Huh?
Intense.
Intense.
Just one tent. The only
See?
tent that
Just
matters.
We got the puns down.
Oh, it's a pun day today.
It's been a very pun day.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Well, thank you for sharing those experiences that you were in the tent, sharing those experiences when you were in the tent. I mean, it just sounds like such an amazing place to be. And I love, your wife is so brilliant, by the way. I just want to put it out there. I think the advice that she gave you was absolutely, very, very wise. And you are a very lucky man to have found a partner who supports you so beautifully. And that's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I'm beyond lucky. I mean, it's so, and if you, I mean, I know you guys watch the season, but so many of those bakes were about her. And and I think that advice goes, and that's why I wrote it on this sweatshirt, because it goes in life. That's anything you do.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you're in the tent baking or whatever. If you're doing even if it's something you hate, there's going to be some component of what you're doing that there's going to be a positive. Just find that, and that'll carry you through.
Yeah. Great life advice, I think, in baking. There's a lot of great life learnings in baking. So
thanks for sharing.
Cool. Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, now it is time.
Now it's time
for our exciting round of this or that.
Chocolate
edition.
Chocolate.
All right.
And maybe a couple of non-chocolate.
Well, we're going to start off with the non-chocolate one because I have to ask this one. So what we're going to do is going to say a couple of different choices, and you are going to snap back with your first response.
Okay.
As to what you prefer.
All right.
Okay. All right. This or that. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Thank you. That's 2 for me.
Unless it's cold, and then it's got to be iced tea. I love iced tea. When I'm in the southern states, sweet tea.
Proper sweet tea.
Sweet tea.
Not just iced tea, because that's gross.
Oh, no. That's
sweet tea.
It's got to be proper brewed tea with lemon. Yeah.
Right. I love going to the US because they have just the beautifully brewed tea. Iced tea in Canada sucks.
Yeah.
In the US, they have it right with their.
They don't have a lot of things right, but they got that right.
Right. Exactly.
Fine.
Yes.
You guys.
That's another episode for another day. Maybe another podcast.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Next.
Chocolate. Dark, milk, or white?
Milk.
Good choice.
Okay.
Tempering.
For eating. Yes.
Okay. Tempering. Microwave or a bain-marie?
Microwave.
Okay.
Tabling or seating?
Seating.
Cups or grams?
Grams.
Brownies with or without nuts?
Without.
He looked like he was considering that.
Well, because I like pistachios in my brownies. That's why. But only pistachios.
Oh, only. Pistachios.
If I make a brownie that's black cherry and pistachio.
You were just saying cherries would be good in brownies because I said raisins in brownies.
No.
And we both just about threw up.
No.
I'm like, you're not my friend. If you like, we have to talk.
You know the answer.
We have to talk.
All right. Forget no more raisin talk for now.
All right.
Okay. Candy melts, yes or no?
No.
Ever, never a place for them?
If you're in a tent and you don't have a lot of time and you need to make some butterflies, but now, and the only reason I did that, I was going to, on my first bake when I had the butterflies, I was going to temper chocolate, but A, I was horrible at tempering chocolate. I had done it like twice in my life. And B, I was watching back season 4, and I saw Maggie make her cake where she had the balloons and the bicycle, and
Yeah.
she used candy melts. And I said, if Maggie can use candy melts, that's permission for me to use candy melts. That's where I'll save myself some time. But
Okay.
in real
And here's
life, never.
You've gone past that.
They don't even
Yeah.
come into my door. You're not allowed to bring them in my house. They don't have a place. No. I will
Good to
feed them to
know.
Kyla and Bruno only, and with an apology. And actually, going forward, like even in the holiday special, only tempering chocolate. Only.
You're the king of that now.
On that note, do they taste the little decor pieces, and does that become part of the judging as well? Or do they, like, so if you did happen to use like candy melts to do butterflies, do they actually taste the butterflies, or are they just digging into the actual?
No, they don't taste the butterflies because that's a decor situation. If it was tempered chocolate, I don't even know that they would eat it, but they would snap it to make sure it was tempered properly. Which, that's a whole other thing, trying to temper chocolate in a boiling hot tent, which can be done because I've done it. But but it's something that I carry with me to this day and forever. And it's something I know that Bruno and Kyla live by. And I live by it because of them. And that is, if you're putting something on the plate, it needs to be edible. So anything I put on the plate is edible.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's great. That's awesome. All right. I think we know the answer to this question.
Yeah, I think so too.
Chocolate mousse or chocolate caramel tart?
Wow, that's tough, but I gotta go mousse.
That's what we figured. We figured.
Okay. Should I say praline or praline?
Praline, isn't it? Praline?
It depends what you're making.
Okay.
Are you talking about the things from New Orleans, or are you talking about the candied nuts?
Candied nuts.
No. Okay. I'm talking about hazelnuts. So I'm talking about praline or ganduya.
Okay. Well, yeah. So like praline, you're talking about, all day long, all day long, yeah,
sure, all day long,
yeah.
All right, all right.
Praline. That's a fancy
praline.
Like
praline.
You're talking about the paste that you make with the hazelnuts and the sugar?
Honestly, I have no idea. I just grabbed it out of the internet.
Okay. Because there's you have pralines and cream ice cream, right? Which is
yes,
it was a praline pecan, which is a pecan that's been coated with candied sugar. It's been candied, so that's a praline. But a praline, which is what they make down in so a praline is down in New Orleans. That's in the fudge family. And that is, it's usually a round thing. It's got pecans in it, and you gotta say pecans if it's down in the southern states. And it's almost like a fudge, and you eat that. And then, of course, there's praline paste, which is when you praline your hazelnuts or your almonds or whatever, and then grind them up until they're that stuff.
Okay,
give me a bath. Like, I want to take a bath in that stuff. I turned Amanda onto that. As a praline, like a hazelnut. It was hazelnut almond praline mousseline. I remember she had never had it, and I gave her some, and I saw her eyes roll back in her head a little bit.
It's good when.
I make the little yummy sounds, and I do a little dance. I go,
Well, and Kyla did that. Kyla did that as well when I eat, because it was in the eclair, and when she made that face, and I said, "Okay, that's."
And
I don't need words. I don't need words.
No more. No more imposter syndrome.
You're good. Okay, so Calibo or Valrhona? I think, is that how you pronounce that?
Yes,
chocolate?
that is how you pronounce it. And that's
Valrhona?
depends on what I'm doing, honestly. Calibo.
Okay, so
Calibo for my wallet, and also for things like making shells of bonbons, tempered chocolate pieces. Valrhona if it's part of the dessert itself, because the flavor is so elevated, I'm told, because again, palate of a 7-year-old. But even I have some Valrhona in the house, and I have the infused. I have the passion fruit, and my wife likes to snack on them. I said, you're snacking on $40 a pound chocolate, right? This is not snacking chocolate. She loves the tartness of them.
Sounds
but
so amazing.
They're so good.
So good.
So if I'm making a dessert, I prefer those. But Calibo is I 10 to 1 in my house, and I have bins of chocolate in my house now.
I bet you do.
Bet you
It's
do.
amazing. And on that note, actually, like all the different types of chocolate that are out there right now, like, I know we asked you about the dark milk or white, but do you have another like flavored chocolate that is your go-to or that you absolutely just love to work with?
I honestly love that Valrhona passion fruit.
Yeah,
When I
that's
make a bonbon that I make a ganache out of it. And it's so good. And that turned me on to more passion fruit things. And now I make a passion fruit mousse. I don't use that chocolate for it. I use a passion fruit puree.
yeah.
But it really turned me on to passion fruit. So I like making things with that particular um, chocolate, that Valrhona passion fruit chocolate. It's good. Like the ganache you can make, and if you can fill a bonbon with it, it's really it's nice. It's heavenly.
Oh, that would be like my dream. I love passion fruit so much. And that mango dessert that you posted, I was just like drooling.
And that
But
was
passion fruit is better than mango for me.
that
I
So
don't think so. I love mango.
for me
Yeah,
it is.
I'm not. My palate is obviously not quite as sophisticated as yours. I'm not a huge fan of passion fruit.
That doesn't mean you're not sophisticated. It means you have a different palate.
yeah, it's
That's
it's
just trying
tart,
to make me
right?
feel better for loving
It's
passion fruit.
passion fruit
Not
is pretty
mango.
tart, but the mangoes I used to make that mousse that I posted yesterday, I think it was, I made for Friday at a friend's house. He has a business associate in India, and he sends
Mhm.
him mangoes from India. And when we were on the holiday show, Mahathi had those same mangoes. They're unlike any
Well,
mango you've ever had before. They
she's the
are
Wow.
fruit pirate princess. Of
Yeah,
course,
Yes.
she
these things
has a
are
mango.
orange like you've never seen, and the flavor doesn't taste like a mango you buy at the supermarket. It's perfumey. There's even like the smallest hint of like an anise in there. It is, and it's like
Oh,
you when you there's it's not fibrous. You bite down, it sort of melts in your mouth. And so when my
Oh,
friend said
wow.
to me, "I've
That's
got these
amazing.
mangoes, would you do anything with them? They're all super ripe. They have to be used." And I tasted one. I said, "I've had, if not this, a similar mango." I said, "And since you're having a dinner at your place on Friday that I'm coming to, I'll figure out something." And then I just sort of winged it. I said, "Okay, if I wish I had a Vitamix." He reaches into his cupboard. He said, "I bought this during the pandemic." So I made puree out of it. I made the mousse. I made the lime gelée,
Oh,
which is just when you get through all that light, beautiful mousse, and then you hit that lime gelée and it just pops.
oh
That thing was
man, that
good.
amazing.
Like,
sounds
I had
so
never
good.
made any of those components before, and I had certainly never put them together, and I thought, "It makes sense to me, so well, and
Yeah,
if
it
it's
sounds like
lousy,
it
It's
sounded amazing, looked
amazing.
amazing.
just a bunch of
Um,
guys drinking whiskey, they're gonna eat it anyway, so."
they'll eat whatever you put in front of them,
Exactly.
but they better have appreciated it.
Yeah.
Okay, next question: silicone or polycarbonate molds?
Polycarb.
Okay, what's your reasoning behind that?
It's you're getting the best shine. You're just, you're just getting the
Mhm.
shiny, and if you've tempered your chocolate properly, they release instantly. You don't have to pop them out. It just silicone
Yeah,
has its place
yeah.
in Hollywood, but other than that,
I
Don't
love
be
it.
popping those molds.
Not in chocolate baking. Unless they're doing chocolate making in a Hollywood movie, maybe.
right?
Maybe.
That's
Got it.
it's a different type of chocolate balloons. Okay.
Okay. So, Calais or blocks of chocolate?
Calais.
That does not surprise me
Yep.
at
No,
all.
because A,
Okay.
I'm lazy, and B, they're uniform size, and
Yeah.
B, I'm
So
lazy.
You are not
you're
lazy.
definitely not lazy.
Anyone who
You will
does this
never
stuff,
find anyone who will say they want to chop a block. Never, never, never.
I know. I bought one a while back, and I finally like of white chocolate, and I finally like chopped it down, and I had actually found this little tool that actually is a chocolate chopper. Have you seen them
I
before?
have not.
Oh, actually, let me go get it. We have
well, I don't know. It's 3 hours later there. Although he does seem to enjoy this kind of talk. I mean, the last time we got together and talked, I had to tell everybody Phil's falling asleep. We better stop talking.
Oh my
this little
gosh.
guy.
Look at that.
Yeah, it works like a hot damn. Like we can edit that out. We can edit this out. I don't know that we can say this. Yeah. Do we have to like bleep out our podcasts?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, there you go. But this little tool is like a godsend for chunking down pieces of chocolate.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So it works really well. So they've got little sharp little tines at the end, and yeah.
Where did you get that?
I picked it up. I've got all sorts of weird gadgets and such. So, but at a kitchen supply place here in Vancouver.
So if you get less lazy and you want to chop a block of chocolate, now you know to look for a...
Sure. And people
Whatever
around
those
you
are
will be
called.
very polite as long as you're carrying that with you. So
Right. I guess they would be, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
I'm
get
over
your hands
here and I
off
might be
my
more
bonbons
polite
that
now.
Steve sent me this Christmas. Did you hear that?
No.
I didn't hear what he said. Did you hear what she said?
No.
I
said, get your hands off the chocolate bonbons that Steve sent me this Christmas.
The good one. All right, last question for this or that.
And you know this one's got to be coming because this is like
Classic.
The most controversial question out there. Raisins or no raisins in your butter tarts?
Raisins.
Oh.
Yeah. and there's only one reason that I want raisins. Honestly, there's one reason, and I don't have to share. I don't mind them in my butter tart, but if there's a raisins in my butter tarts, no one's asking for any of my butter tart.
You are brilliant. I do the same thing with chocolate chip mint ice cream. Nobody ever asks me for a bite. Exactly.
My wife loves.
Nobody ever asks me for a bite of my
chocolate chip mint. That's gross.
I love your wife. We gotta meet. We gotta meet.
Oh gosh.
I love it too. That's a favorite for me. But the funny thing is, he said, for one reason and one reason only, and I don't have to share. And I was like, oh, he's not going to share his reason.
That's what I thought too. I thought he was. That's exactly what I
don't
thought.
have to. And then I'm like,
share. Oh, you don't have to share your butter tart. You're so right, because
makes sense.
I wouldn't even be coming anywhere.
It is one of maybe two things in the world that I don't mind raisins in. I don't mind raisins in my glacette raisins at all. And in butter tarts, but like you put it in bread, you can keep the bread. I got no interest in eating that bread, like none.
Oh, see, I actually am. I can't stand it in any dessert, but give me like a cinnamon raisin bread or a cinnamon raisin bagel, and I'm all over that.
No.
But that's it. No. Nothing else.
Fruit and
don't put it in my brioche. Don't put it in like it's like cinnamon bread that's toasted with some beautiful butter. Or a cinnamon raisin bagel.
No.
That's it.
And don't put it in my brownies.
Fruit and nut bar, I'm all over. No problem there.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I love fruit and nut bar.
I don't understand that.
I actually make them too.
Brownies. Oh, well, that would be better because you'd use Valrhona passion fruit chocolate.
I don't think I've used Valrhona passion fruit for that one.
Or maybe with some brown butter in there.
Oh,
right? If it was something that had the brown butter and maybe some rum soaked raisins.
I like the rum soaked raisins, but then somebody said, "Why have the raisins? just
go right
have
to the rum."
That sounds good too.
Yeah.
All right. We would like to ask you for your baking scrap. So, what is your tip or trick that you would like to share with our listeners?
My tip or trick? Okay, so it's a chocolate one actually. Since it's a chocolate episode, chocolatey episode. And it's about the tempering that I do. I do seeding, but there's two. There is a chocolatier in Australia who cuts that time in half, and I know other people who do it as well, where you just microwave your chocolate until you have half solid, half liquid. And then you don't even seed it. You just keep on mixing until it comes together and you now have tempered chocolate. I still don't necessarily believe that will work. But my thing is I microwave my chocolate till I hit, if it's dark chocolate, till I hit 50 Celsius, and then I seed it. But my tip is you microwave your chocolate in a stainless steel bowl in the microwave for two reasons. One, you get that reaction from people when you see that when you do it, because they say, don't put metal in the microwave. And two, it doesn't retain any heat. and you don't want your bowl to retain heat. So if you're microwaving it in a ceramic bowl or a glass bowl, it's going to retain heat. It's going to take forever to get it down. The stainless steel bowl retains 0 heat. The only thing is, don't let it touch the sides of your microwave. Now, if you think about your microwave, more than likely the inside of your microwave is stainless steel. And people don't realize stainless steel is not the same as a metal bowl. Stainless steel will not arc. It will not burn like a staple, maybe that's attached to your Chinese food takeout container or something. It's okay to go in your microwave. But if it touches the side where 2 pieces of stainless touch, bad things can happen. So make sure it's in the center. I've lost one microwave where it wasn't, and it touched the front. It wasn't bad, like it didn't blow up, and the growth on the back of my head is going to go away one day. But for real, like use an appropriate size stainless steel bowl in your microwave. It is the best thing. Only the chocolate will heat up. The bowl will not.
That is a crazy tip.
Yeah. I've seen that. Like I've seen or seen other bakers like on Instagram that have suggested that. I've never tried it.
I'd be scared.
Yeah. I mean, I'm new in my chocolate like exploration and trying out some, doing some amazing bonbon. Well, I'm aspiring to do that because I see, get great inspiration from people like you. Your amazing chocolate work and your bonbons just look so absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
And so I've dibbled and dabbled in doing some bonbons as well, which is it's so much fun, but you have to have a lot of patience and I think it's just finding that right technique because it's a timing, like you really need time. You can't rush this, right? No. So, but if there are some time saving tricks on that, that's amazing. So I might try that.
That absolutely helps with the tempering. And of course, the most important tip that I could give, and it was given to me and I ignored it. It was by Chris Koo from season 3 when I started going on, and I knew he had done bonbons, and I sent him a note and I asked him for some tips, and he said, "Don't start. Just don't." It is a rabbit hole and you will fall in. I did it during the pandemic. Some people picked up sourdough. I picked up bonbons. Don't do it. And I ignored him. And I have almost 100 polycarbonate molds in my house. I don't sell bonbons because there's no price I can charge for them that would recoup the time, never mind the materials, the time I spend on it. And I've become stupid obsessed. I mean, I just did a chocolate sculpture for no reason other than we had people over for dinner. And I thought, I think
that was amazing.
That
was amazing.
That was mind blowing. I was just like, oh.
So yes, do not start. Do not start with bonbon. That is the best piece of advice because there's no end. It's just you fall and fall and fall.
Oh no,
she's already started.
Doomed, right? I was going to say. So, what piece of advice do you have for people who've already kind of gone down that road partway?
You might as well start selling off pieces of furniture, and because you got to fund this craziness that's happening, and the next thing you know, like at Christmas time, again, a normal person would take their molds and say, okay, I'm going to do 18 molds. So I will do, 6 molds by 3 different kinds of chocolate. But you don't. You get someone like me who makes a spreadsheet and I say, okay, so I'm going to make 18 different types of bonbons, 1 for each mold. And I've got the spreadsheet saying, this is the shape. These are the colors of cocoa butter they're going in. These are the fillings. So now I've got to make 18 fillings. And okay, so what flavor coating is going to work with that? And then how can I do it? Because you have to temper the cocoa butter color. And okay, so if I lay down this color on this one, but I want to use it on this one, I don't want them to look the same. So at what point do I lay it down where I don't have to temper that color twice? And what order do I put them in? It's ridiculous. Don't do it. I'm telling, just don't do it. Yeah. And if you're there already, stop, sell it all, get rid of it.
Oh, but it's kind of fun.
Oh,
and they're fun. So pretty.
Yeah.
They're so pretty.
Shiny object, right?
And so tasty. They're so good. And they're easy and they're portable to give away to people and that kind of stuff.
Long shelf life.
I mean, I'm impressed that you did an Excel spreadsheet and don't have it all written on a Post-it note from 3 years ago.
It was the only time I did one. And you know what? No. And then I ordered more. Once I did that, I said, well, I've got this shape. I kind of like this shape. So I went online and I ordered like 5 of that same shape. So my
Oh yeah.
justification was, okay, so now I can just make 5 molds of the exact same color, the exact same thing. I don't,
Oh,
that's why now. So now I have 5
that makes sense.
geometric heart-shaped molds. Great. So when Valentine's Day comes, I can make one kind and I can make a ton all at once and I'm good. I'm a happy guy.
Efficiency. That's
That
good.
totally makes sense.
And gave me another, I'll give you one more tip. He gave me a great tip for tempering
Yes.
when you're seeding. And that is, you know, you'll have leftover chocolate that you won't use, you know, and you spread it out thin and then it's tempered and you can use that the next time you go. But you end up, if you can make so that you have a little block of it, maybe, you know, I don't know, like a size of an egg, keep that, because when you seed your chocolate, maybe all of your seeded chocolate is melted and your chocolate's still at 35 degrees or 34 degrees. You got to get down to 32. You take that little piece, that block of chocolate, and you throw that in and you keep mixing. So that's going to keep on seeding it, because if you throw more colettes in, you're going to hit 32. You're going to still have pieces. Now what are you going to, now you got to run it through a strainer. So his thing is, take this one piece you keep for when your seed has melted and throw that in, and that works like a charm.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I would love nothing more than make chocolate with you one day. That would be such a cool experience.
That would be fun.
Learning from Steve. And is that something you'd actually ever like? Is that something you'd want to do? Is like teach?
I don't know if I'm a good teacher or not. You know, some people just know how to teach. I don't know if I'm a good person who knows how to teach. I can make a mess. I can make a mockery, but I don't know if I can teach.
I think it would be an incredibly fun class, actually. So
I don't know if you'd come out any richer for the experience, but
I don't know. I think you're selling yourself a little short there, Steve. I think your work has been as amazing. I love following you on Instagram, and it's your works. They're really truly like museum worthy. Because they're just so beautiful and they sound incredibly tasty, delicious as well. So yeah,
they are.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
Next time,
I
promise I'll share.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the next batch I make, I won't send any to Lisa. I'll just send
there you go.
I don't like that idea.
Or maybe I'll just make extra. Now that I have all these extra molds, and I'll just send to everyone.
That's fine.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm making my white pepper gingerbread cookies, and I'm not sending any of those to you. You got the one. That's all you get.
Oh, yeah. That was so cool. What Lisa did for you guys when she met up with you.
Mine's in the freezer with a bite out of it.
What part of you did you bite off?
I had to know what it tasted like, but I couldn't bring myself to bite my own head. So and it looked, I looked at them and I was like, these like they all look just like us. How do you do that?
Freehand, apparently.
Yeah.
I asked her that question. I'm like, so how did you do this? And she's like, oh, I just did it freehand. I'm like, oh yeah, of course you did.
I mean, they really look like us. Not a little bit.
They were representative.
No,
I don't think they really looked like you. But
you clearly, I mean, because you can never put a finger, so you clearly captured enough of the points that we don't even know that stick out, that make us look like who we are. So when we look at the cookie, there's no question that is each of us. And when we held them up to our faces in that picture, they look like us. They didn't look a little bit like us. They look just like us.
I know. They were so impressive
and delicious, because they could have tasted like crap, but they were really good.
I know
that would be bad.
Killer gingerbread. Like I still dream about that gingerbread that Lisa makes. It's so good.
We'll have to send you some gingerbread that you can eat, Steve, so that you don't have to bite your own head.
And I was just going to suggest that next time you do that, you can actually make just regular cookies too. And then that way you can.
That's weird.
No, like that they wouldn't feel bad about eating.
Oh, I see.
Because it would be a little awkward, I think, biting your own head off.
You mean if I do a portrait cookie for somebody else?
Yeah, exactly.
You're right.
I don't have one of those either.
I just wanted to make it special. I'm like, I haven't made you a portrait cookie. I'm sorry.
It was very special.
Come on. Wow.
You just get the baking scraps.
I know, obviously. Yeah.
I'll make some tomorrow. I'll make some tomorrow. We have here the royal icing is almost made. So
that's just It's just icing, sugar, and water.
Yeah. It's a prop.
It was a prop.
Anyway, Steve, it has been a long conversation, and I have to edit it. So much as I would love to keep talking to you, I know it's already quite late over there.
Yeah, we really do appreciate your time and your energy and the conversation today. And thank you for teaching us. I've learned so much actually speaking to you as well about the chocolate and really, I think that the great life lessons that you shared with us as well, I think are worth so much. So thank you for that. And we are looking forward to continuing watching what you do on your social media platform. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you
so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute treat. You two are an absolute pleasure to hang out with every time I've been able to. And this was no different. This was fabulous. Thank you so much. You guys are great.
Wow. Thank you so much, Steve.
We're having just a little bit of fun doing this so far.
Quite a bit.
We're just getting started, but it's been, it's been so wonderful. And social media is so fabulous for that as well, because that's kind of how we met, through our love for Great Canadian Baking Show. And I think that's the best part of the show actually, is the community that you build as a result, regardless of whether you're on the show or you're not on the show, and the love that everybody has for each other and all the support that's given.
Yeah, it's
very absolutely.
True.
And
it's very cool.
It's something it never occurred to me that would be a thing until it entered my life, and I was like, wow, look at that. All of this other stuff, all the people, everyone's so nice. Everyone I ever encounter who has met me because I was on the show, it's just amazing. I mean, whether it's someone stopping me in Walmart or the two of you, it's just, everyone is just so delightful.
That's awesome. That's good that it was such a positive experience continuing after the show and everything. So,
well, baking is joyful.
Yeah.
At the end of it, right? It really is.
It is. I always, my line is always, if you hand someone a bowl of broccoli, okay, but if you hand them a bowl of cookies or a cake, there's a whole different facial expression, a whole different thing that happens. And that's really one of the great things of baking. It's not baking for myself, it's baking for other people, and seeing their reaction when they get it. It's fabulous.
Yeah. 100%.
That's really the best part.